right, boom, we're live. Thank you everybody for joining, everybody tuning in on our YouTube page. It is the first episode of 2022. So I hope everybody had a happy holidays. Hope everyone had a nice new year. I know I did. It was a spur of the moment decision last week to not have the podcast. We were just a little busy, still partying for the new year. And we didn't have any UFC last weekend anyway, so it kind of worked out for the best. But we are back. Got 51 episodes to go for 2022. We're going to make the most of them. We're almost at episode 80 already, which is crazy. Seems like only last week we started this podcast. But we have Austin, who's going to be coming to join the podcast very soon. For right now, I am taking the reins. We're going to talk about the fights we got this weekend, and then we're going to be talking about the... honestly, I don't even know. I don't have a plan for this podcast. It's not even going to be as long of one as we normally have. Just a little refresher so everybody knows where we are. Obviously, UFC 270 coming up in 2 weeks' time. Main evented by Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane. And a report actually just came out from ESPN UFC writer Brett Okamoto saying Ngannou will not fight under his current contract anymore. And we've heard that Dana White and Francis Ngannou have had current contract negotiations where Dana White has said that he may just let the UFC heavyweight champion go after his scheduled bout with Cyril Gane. So that is super interesting. Dana White has a method for his madness, we know. There's been other personalities on this podcast that have been more in favor of Dana White than I am personally. I'm not the biggest. I don't love that guy. I do understand from a business sense what he's doing, but at the same time, from a spectator's stance and from an appreciator of mixed martial arts and the promotion of the UFC as a whole, I do think that some of his moves are questionable, but who am I? I'm just a journalist who does a UFC podcast, so don't mind me. I just give my own opinions, and you guys can take it from there. So we have a good show in store for you. We're going to get into Giga Chikadze versus Calvin Kattar very shortly. We'll talk about UFC 270 coming up. We'll talk about some other scheduled fights that are bound to happen in the next couple months because there are a lot of really great fights that have already been scheduled for this year. So go check out MMA Complete Podcast on our YouTube page. Go follow us on our Twitter at complete_MMA, and go check out fansonlysports.com on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything you got. We'll be right back to start the show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Happy 2022. Alright, we're back. So as the commercial break was going on, I was reading the article just posted on ESPN by staff writer Brett Okamoto. It's a very good read. Brett Okamoto is always one of the premier UFC writers for ESPN, and whenever he comes out with something, it's very good. And he's writing about how the current contract negotiations between Francis Ngannou and Dana White have been timid, to say the best, and that there is no deal expected to be made before the January 22nd date of UFC 270, which is the last fight currently contracted under the UFC for Francis Ngannou. There is an interesting clause in his contract, however. So before I get to that, the UFC has a natural clause, which they do for all of their UFC fighters, in which after your last fight is over, regarding you're not a champion, you have a 90-day exclusivity clause in your contract where you cannot sign with outside promotions, and the UFC can still try to negotiate with you to sign another deal. if you are a champion holder, like Francis Ngannou plans to be after the UFC 270 fight versus Cyril Gane, the UFC has a stipulation under the contract called Champions Clause, in which you are now required to fight for 3 more fights or 1 more calendar year, or until you lose the championship. So, if Francis Ngannou was to retain the title against Cyril Gane in 2 weeks' time, we will see Francis Ngannou again, almost guaranteed, for a UFC heavyweight championship fight. That is based on the fact that Francis Ngannou will fight again in a year. And there are several other clauses and fine print that are in that contract that I don't have availability to, such as what would happen if he turns down a fight in the next year and the year passes. Does the UFC have a contract saying that he can't turn down a fight? I don't know personally. But it is a very interesting situation. It's one that's almost unprecedented, really, in the UFC. We've never seen a UFC champion who has not lost the belt leave for another organization due to a contract being up. It's never happened in the UFC before. But Francis Ngannou's current deal is making between $500,000 and $600,000 a fight, and for a top-ranked UFC fighter who has the promotional value of Francis Ngannou, which he absolutely does. He's the hardest hitter in UFC ever. He flatlined Stipe. People know his name. He's this big, intimidating, huge, jacked guy that the UFC can sell the shit out of. You can understand his reluctance to fight for $500,000. While it's an amazing amount of money and a great opportunity for most people, of a person of his caliber and his stature that has taken his career to the level that it is, you can see why he would want upwards of $1 million to multiple millions of dollars per fight. That's totally understandable. Which brings me into my next point that I want to get into. The fact that Jon Jones, originally in 2021, had been under negotiations for a fight with Ngannou, in which Jon Jones wanted $10 million. Now, when we had talked about that, and go check out MMA Complete Podcast episodes 53 and 54, 43 and 44. That was where we were talking about it a lot. That was just before the summer of 2021. We had talked about, is Jon Jones worth $10 million to the UFC? To which my answer was yes, because the UFC is going to net profit a good $20-30 million anyway, not even including the other fighters' pays that would obviously be on the card. So why wouldn't you do that? Because, and I'm going to say this, and the only reason I don't want to say this is because I like to have people of opposite opinions of mine, like Austin, who has not only a very strong mind and narrative of his own opinions, but actually differs on me in this point, which makes for compelling arguments. But the UFC and Dana White are stingy bastards when it comes to fighter pay. This isn't breaking news. We all know this. And before anybody goes out there and say that I'm taking from Jake Paul's tweets about fighter pay, we've been talking about this for years, way before Jake Paul. And while Jake Paul made some great points, Dana also made some good points saying that there's no fucking way that Jake Paul wrote that, which I agree with. But that's neither here nor there. The UFC is stingy, and they are trying to get the least amount of pay to fighters as possible, which is a smart business move. Because other organizations can't pay the fighters that the UFC has under contract the way that the UFC does. The UFC is the NFL. All other promotions are like the Canadian Football League. We're on the same page here. I get that. And that is negotiating skill. And that's, background that you have in your corner that you can use. UFC fighters get paid per fight, and they're only going to make as much per fight if they get the most optimizing viewership of those fights. Yes, the UFC will they will set your price or your contracted pay rate based on your skill level, based on your ranking level, which has to do with experience in the company over the last couple of years that you currently possess. But the Conor McGregor factor of do you sell pay-per-views has really become even more than your skill as far as a pay rate contributor. And Francis Ngannou, it's an interesting point, to Dana White's credit. Francis Ngannou has not gotten a lot of publicity. He's not gotten a lot of promotion. Could that be because he only had 1 or 2 fights left on his current contract, and there was no advancement on the next contract? Possibly. Dana's very smart like that. Why would you promote a fighter and make him huge and make him this huge sensation if you know that you're going to have to negotiate a contract in another year? He's very smart. As stingy and as, I don't want to say the dick that he is, he's a smart businessman. As much grief I've given Dana, I will never say otherwise. He's such a smart businessman. He's been in the company since it basically started. I think he's been in the company since like 94, and it started in 92. He knows how to work the system. He knows how to work the fighters, and he knows how to negotiate contracts because he has been doing it for 20 years. So he's very smart, but at the same time, how long is that going to last you? He says to all these fighters like a Jorge Masvidal, like a Jake Paul, he even said it to Khabib, if you want to go out and you want to make your own promotion, go do that. Like, good luck. Have fun with it. Because he knows they're not going to get to the level of the UFC. Problem is what if one day they do get to the level of the UFC? And the most interesting promotion that would get close to that would be Eagle FC by Khabib Nurmagomedov, who started his own promotion in Russia, who's recently signed some fighters. They're becoming more prominent in the media. They have a chance to break through that wall of being a C-level organization to a B and maybe even one day an A-level organization because of the hype surrounding Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's going to have to do more promoting it. He's going to have to sign more fighters. It's going to have to be in existence for a couple of years before it gets there. But if the UFC could finally get some competition from a promotional sense to really, like, the fact of the matter is, your promotion, your organization is only as strong as the fighters you have signed. And the UFC, clearly, by far, no competition has the best roster of any combat sports organization. Strikeforce, Bellator, one championship. It's not even close. You have some guys that are over in one, like Demetrius Johnson. You have some guys who are over in Bellator, like a Ryan Bader or an Anthony Johnson or a Yoel Romero. That's great. But do you have the following that UFC's built up? Do you have the Twitter followers? Do you have the name recognition that UFC has? No one's even close. Could that change over the next couple years? I do believe it could. I believe that Bellator in particular and Eagle FC have really become promotions that have the ability to cross over that next level. But for right now, the UFC is basically saying, you're playing by our rules or go fuck yourself. Which is a smart business decision, which at the end of the day is all you really have. You have business decisions, and then you have weaknesses, I guess would be the opposite, because yes, it would make sense to give these fighters what they deserve, the health insurance that they deserve, the $50,000 minimum pays that they deserve, the long-term health care that they deserve, especially with stuff like CTE and other head injuries. That would all make sense. But the UFC doesn't need to do that because free agent fighters are going to sign with the UFC whether they have those stipulations or not, just based on UFC's past and their present, not their future. You just, as someone who's watched the UFC since UFC 44 back in 2000, whatever, with Matt Hughes and George St. Pierre and BJ Penn and Randy Couture and Tim Sylvia, Rampage Jackson, Chuck Liddell, and all those guys, to see the advancement of the sport to this mega million conglomerate corporation that it is today is amazing. It's so great to see the level that this sport has turned into based solely off one promotion, which is the UFC. I don't want to say solely, but everybody who knows what I'm talking about knows that it's solely on UFC. Like Bellator and Strikeforce have been around forever, but it's UFC. It really is UFC's territory. It's as close to a monopoly on sports as you can get. Because the NFL has a monopoly on professional football, but college football is almost as huge as the NFL, so you don't really have a monopoly on an entire sport. You know, the same thing with the MLB. Actually, the MLB has Japanese leagues and they have Chinese leagues, but they have farm teams that also take up a lot of fan attention, and it's not just the professional level. There's no other sport in which one corporation monopolizes the entire viewership, or at least 80% of the viewership of its sport's entirety, like the UFC does. And so, I love opening up these shows with rants. I hope the viewers like it as well. Let me know if you'd rather see more introspective and argumentative commentary between me and Austin and Mark and Dylan. But I really do love having these little rants where I can get it off my chest. UFC is... What would be the best way to describe it? They're General Electric. Do you want electricity? Do you want to be able to power your home? Then you're going to have to pay us, or you're going to have to work with us. And if you don't want us, then go find another option. You know? It makes sense, but you're being a dick. Because you can be a dick. And that's Dana White. I think that's the best way to describe him. He's a dick because he can be. And good for him, because he set himself up to the point where he can be a dick. How did I even get started with this? Ngannou. Yeah. Ngannou is getting fucked over in his contract. That was the whole point I'm making. I hope his next contract he makes $1 million a fight, because he's 35 years old. He's the champion. He's the new champion. I think he's going to beat Ciryl Gane. If he doesn't beat Ciryl Gane, you're not getting the championship money that you deserve, and I'm sorry for that. But you've made enough money anyway that you're going to be able to go retire and help out Cameroon or your own family or whatever you want to do. So I hope you're able to take advantage of that. But I think Ngannou will win the title, and if he goes to another organization, that could be bad for the UFC. It couldn't, because anywhere Ngannou goes, he's going to fuck up anybody he faces, because they don't have the caliber of Ciryl Gane's and Stipe Miocic's and Daniel Cormier's and John Jones. That no one's going to be able to contest him. And Francis Ngannou, his first fight in another organization, will probably get a good amount of hype. But then no one's going to want to watch the rest of them because they know he's going to win. So Ngannou's painted into a really dark corner, and I feel terrible for him. But, you know, we've seen this sport grow so much, and it still has so much more to grow. And I hope in the future the UFC has more strength in their own unions, because that is going to be the best way to fight these low pay grades. You know, there was a fighter, I can't remember his name, but there was a fighter who fought on UFC 269 who made $13,000. I'll repeat that. Someone fought in a major UFC pay-per-view, the last pay-per-view of 2021, and he made $13,000. Now, I'm not scoffing at $13,000. You know, it takes me like 2 months to make that. But this guy is on TV. He's on pay-per-view. And he's making less than $20,000 to put his life on the line against a trained killer. I hope you got health benefits, bro. I hope you got other revenue streams, as most of these guys do. But to say that you need to make something of yourself to earn a higher pay grade is legitimate. But if you're on fucking TV and you're on pay-per-view and you are doing a professional sport, you should make more than $12,000 a fight. That's all I gotta say. Was it? I can't remember the guy's name. I'm not gonna speculate on it. But anyway, let's get on to our second topic of the show. Besides fighter pay, which I do think is going to be a prominent topic that we're going to be talking about on this page. So make sure if you do want to talk about it, you got any questions, you got any comments on the rant that I just had, go tweet at us at complete_MMA. The banner should have been up, but I guess it wasn't. So that is our Twitter on the bottom of the screen now. make sure you go tweet at us or just leave a comment on the video. We reply to all the comments on the videos afterwards it's posted. And, yeah, that would be much appreciated. Let me know if you love the rants or if you'd rather me actually talk about fights. So, coming up this weekend, Giga Chikadze versus Calvin Kattar in the featherweight division. I don't know what to make of this fight, right? Because Calvin Kattar is mostly known nowadays for getting the shit beat out of him and being a tough motherfucker for the way that Max Holloway fucked him up. Giga Chikadze doesn't have the boxing prowess that Max Holloway has. He has a kickboxing prowess that I would say surpasses Max Holloway's, but he doesn't have the boxing prowess. And I don't think he has the stamina that Max Holloway has as well. Which means that Calvin Kattar is going to be able to get some offense in. And I don't think he's going to be able to get knocked out as easily as Chikadze's previous opponents. That being said, I think Chikadze wins. Although I'm not sure, because I've kind of talked myself into it. Calvin Kattar is a bad motherfucker. I think his fight against Max Holloway really lowered fan appreciation of him because he is a top 5 featherweight in the world. He just happened to fight the number 1A featherweight in the world of Max Holloway. And I think that Calvin Kattar is going to be able to stand in front of Giga Chikadze, not have any fear. He's going to take those kicks that Chikadze is so well versed in. And I don't know. I think that I think this is going to be a war. I think it's going to go all 5 rounds. I think Chikadze is going to win by a split decision. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to be interesting to see Chikadze's ability to bounce back after getting hit, though, because in his previous UFC fights, we haven't seen him get hit a whole lot. And this is my pick for the top riser of UFC in 2022. I think that Chikadze is going to be in the top 3 of this division by the end of the year. I think he's going to win this fight and another fight, and he's going to challenge for the title. Maybe at the end of this year, maybe in 2023, as far as basing on if Alexander Volkanovski wants to defend the title 3 times this year, which I don't think he will. But I think Chikadze has... I think he has it. And I think Calvin Kattar has it too. Calvin Kattar is just... He's that number 5 gatekeeper. He belongs at number 6, but he's not going to beat these top 5 guys in featherweight. That Actually, maybe that's not true because what we're going to get into in a little bit... one of the UFC featherweight top contenders, I don't believe should be as high ranked as he is. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So I do believe that Calvin Kattar is like the number 5 featherweight. He just happens to be fighting all the best featherweights in the world. And, you know, if he gets a win out of it, great for him. I hope he does. Boston strong. Love Calvin Kattar. But I think Giga Chikadze is going to be able to continue his run of form in the UFC. And not take out, but humbly defeat Calvin Kattar this weekend. Which, by the way, this weekend also has a co-main event of Jake Collier versus Chase Sherman, heavyweight bout. That's a great fight. And it has a top 5 ranked flyweight fight as well between Brandon Royval and Rogerio Bontorin, which promises to be so good. For people sleeping on this fight, Bontorin versus Royval, you're missing out. This could be the main event, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. Rogerio Bontorin, one of the best sleepers in the flyweight division, who has an amazing ground game, against the future of this division, and Brandon Royval, who is as well-rounded as anybody in the division, including Figueiredo and Moreno. This fight is going to be a banger. I think that Brandon Royval will knock out Bontorin, though. I think Brandon Royval is going to fight for the flyweight championship at the end of the year, and I think he, depending on who he fights, I think he beats Moreno. I don't know about Figueiredo. And speaking of the flyweight division, speaking of that flyweight championship, we are going to be seeing that come 2 weeks' time. So, UFC 270, which will take place on Austin's birthday, January 22nd of this year, is headlined by the heavyweight championship between champion Francis Ngannou and undefeated interim champion Cyril Gane, former training partners in France, now turned enemies. That was my little... this fight is going to be... It's going to be clear by the middle of the first round who's going to win this fight. Either Ngannou's going to pressure the shit out of Gane Gane's not going to know what to do. Gane's going to fuck up and he's going to get caught. Or Ciryl Gane is going to play a patient, well-rounded fight that probably involves going to the ground. It involves kicking the shit out of Francis Ngannou's legs. And he takes Ngannou into deep waters, and he takes him all 5 rounds, which Ngannou's never been competitive after like 3 rounds. We saw the first fight with Stipe that went 5 rounds, but Ngannou was gassed by the 3rd round. So if this fight closely resembles that, like almost his fight with Derek Lewis, where Lewis wasn't able to do anything after the 2nd round, then Ciryl Gane will win. So after the 1st round, the chances of Ngannou winning drop significantly because Ciryl Gane is so well-rounded of a fighter. I do think that Francis Ngannou knocks out Ciryl Gane in the 1st or 2nd round. I really do believe that. I think Francis Ngannou has taken his wrestling to another level since the last 3 years have gone by. I think that until that man dies, he will be able to knock anyone on the planet out with 1 punch. And I just think that he's intimidating to the point that every fighter that steps into the octagon with him is at a disadvantage just off the start. I think that if you were to say that you're not scared of Francis Ngannou's punching power, you're a liar. Whether that be Miocic, Ciryl Gane, John Jones, whether that be Brock Lesnar, anybody, you're scared of Francis Ngannou's punching power, which if you fix it into your game plan, obviously could help you benefit in other ways by being patient and looking for takedowns, what have you. But you're not going to be able to fight the way you want to fight because that guy can put your lights out with 1 hit. So I think Ciryl Gane has a disadvantage. I think that Ciryl Gane will be heavyweight champion one day because I think he's only 30 years old. But it's not going to be his night on January 22nd. I think Ngannou is going to remain champion until he gets fired, possibly. And good for him because Ngannou is the baddest man on the planet besides John Jones. But that's an argument for another day. Co-main event of UFC 270 is the flyweight bout we were talking about, the trilogy between Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. Figueiredo's going to win. I'm sorry to everybody who loves Brandon Moreno and his Lego building ass, who got kicked so hard in the dick in the first fight that I almost threw up watching it at home. It was the worst groin strike I've ever seen in my life. And that man got up and fought another round and a half. Brandon Moreno is a tough motherfucker. But Davison Figueiredo, his jiu-jitsu and his power of his jabs are going to be too much. And honestly, if Figueiredo doesn't finish Moreno in the first 3 rounds, I'd be shocked. Oh, look who joined us. You missed my rant.
Oh.
First 20 minutes of the podcast, first 10 minutes, whatever, I was ranting about fighter pay.
Oh, fighter pay? Yeah, I mean, Jake...
I had said
Jake
disclaimer,
Paul's
I'm not
come on
taking
the
this
pod.
from Jake Paul, but
Yeah.
whoever wrote that for Jake Paul made some interesting points.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't Jake Paul.
Yeah, I mean, any fighter's allowed to talk about their pay, so, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know what a fighter truly makes, dude, because, like,
There was a UFC fighter, it came out, I can't remember his name, but UFC 269 in December, he fought on the undercard.
Yeah.
He won, and he made $12 grand.
Hmm.
Which $12 grand is a good amount of money.
I wonder if he makes
That'll-
money from sponsors, though, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think the guys that are fighting that low in the card are making sponsorships yet, though. They might, and they might have, like, regional TV
Like,
deals
guaranteed
or something like that.
sponsors at the NFL. And the UFC, like, guarantees them, so, like, maybe they, like... I think they're, like, guaranteed money outside of just fighting, but, like, that's just, like, an inference of mine.
Yeah.
I think they make more than $12,000, dude, like, but that's just...
Right, I'm sure part of their contract is fight pay, fight bonuses, and then also sponsorship deals. Like Venom is the attire wear for every single UFC fighter now. They just made that deal last year. I'm sure they get a little bit of the money off of
Yeah.
Venom.
Yeah.
But the reason I had made that point, have you heard about the Francis Ngannou Dana White talk?
No, I haven't.
All right, so Francis Ngannou's on the last fight of his deal, of his contract.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I did. Okay, then, yeah, I did hear about this. Okay.
So Francis Ngannou had Brett Okamoto put the article on ESPN saying that Francis Ngannou claimed that he makes between $500,000 and $600,000 a fight, and Dana's trying to sign him for the same amount, and he will not sign for that. So if this fight goes as planned for him, because Ngannou fights Gane in 2 weeks, if Ngannou remains the champion, there is a championship clause in his contract, to which he has to fight 3 fights, he has to remain part of the roster for 1 year, or he has to lose the championship. Under the same amount of pay that he's been getting for those last 8 fights.
So he loses the championship, he has no contract. He wins,
Right.
he's still on the contract.
If he loses to Gane, free agent.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If he beats Gane, he has no choice. He's still in the UFC.
Yeah, that's you shouldn't have signed that contract before. Like, it is what it is, though.
It's an 8-fight contract. He signed in 2017. So it's been almost 5 years, and that's a long contract for the UFC. Usually
It is. That's a long never.
Right.
So
So
at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's gonna
about
have to fight.
fighter pay. My claim at the end was Dana White is a dick because he totally can be a dick.
Yeah,
he's
but
a stingy businessman because he's a great businessman.
Yeah, but
To make a contract like that with Francis Ngannou, if you stay champion, you have to fight for us. Like,
yeah,
that's a great fucking move.
but like he thought Ngannou was gonna be champion, and Ngannou thought he wasn't. That's basically what that contract says. Like,
Right.
Ngannou thought he wasn't gonna be champion. Dana White thought he was gonna be champion. So
Right.
Dana White took advantage of it. Like, if Ngannou didn't believe, he shouldn't have signed that deal. Then it's just that simple.
And here's the other thing that I thought that as I was talking about it, it kind of popped into my mind. I honestly think this is a real factor that Dana White had over the last year and a half. Now, mind you, Ngannou beat Stipe in May, so it's been like 8-9 months since he's been the heavyweight champ. Have you seen any promotional value of Francis Ngannou?
No.
Right
Well, is
before
that
his
the
last-
UFC's fault?
I think it's the UFC's doing it on purpose. Because the more media global star you become, the Conor McGregor factor, the more you're going to want for your next contract.
Yeah.
So now that he hasn't gotten any publicity, he hasn't gotten commercials, he's not on Subway commercials and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be able to get that $2 million a fight, whatever the fuck he wants. Like, that's...
Yeah, he could get $1 million a fight.
I think he should get $1 million a fight. I don't think he should get much
$1
more
million.
than that. But then again, if he's the heavyweight champ, if he goes and knocks the fuck out of Cyril Gane, and then further down the road he makes a super fight with John Jones,
but,
then you could say he deserves to get more than a
All right, let's say like Cyril Gane.
Plus,
great contender.
as the champion, you get a cut of pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, if you sell 3 million pay-per-view buys, you're gonna get that extra 800,000 or whatever you're getting.
The other thing is, like, if he beats Cyril Gane, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, Cyril Gane, he's undefeated, but he's only had 10 fights and
He's only fought
so
5
many
times in the
fights
UFC.
in the UFC, and like his last opponent's like not even ranked anymore.
His
and
best
people
win was against Tanner Boser.
Yeah, like people are gonna be like, it's not even like a win. It's a win-win for him. Cyril Gane.
I agree with you, but at the same time, I do think that Cyril Gane has cemented himself as a top 3 in that division. I think that there is clearly a line. Like, it's Ngannou, Stipe, Cyril Gane, and then the rest. Like, you got Curtis Blades, who deserves to be up there. You got Volkov, who deserves to be up there. But those guys, I think that all 3 of those top guys would beat everybody else.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's a choice. Which is why John Jones, coming back in 2022, there was some reports saying that he's going to fight Stipe soon. Oh, that's going to blow that division wide open, man. Let me ask you this. Honestly. Does Ngannou beat John Jones?
If he knocks him out.
As the more we've talked about this, the more I think Ngannou has a great chance of knocking him out. Now, does Cyril Gane beat John Jones?
No.
I don't think so, right?
No. I don't think so.
I think Ngannou's knockout power is the ultimate be-all, end-all to have an advantage over someone. Whereas Cyril Gane, whose fighting style is so close to John Jones, but he only has 10 fights under his record.
Yeah. Olenek's fighting Greg Hardy, huh?
Yep.
Greg Hardy's gonna fight.
Moreno Figueiredo trilogy is on 270.
I got Olenek in that.
I have Greg Hardy. I think Greg Hardy's been training a lot wrestling ever since he got exposed against who the fuck did he get exposed against? He got fucked up on the ground against somebody. I think he's been training, and then Olenek, who's great at jiu-jitsu, has no stand up. So as soon as it remains standing, I think Greg Hardy knocks him out.
Yeah.
Movsar Evlov versus Ilia Tuporia in the featherweight division is an interesting fight. I'm sure you've heard me say that guy's name before, but Ilia Tuporia is my boy. That is my number one prospect in the UFC right now.
Other than Wallace Willie?
I don't think Wallace Willie's really a prospect anymore. When I say prospect, I mean like guys under 25 years old that aren't ranked.
Oh, okay.
Like Tuporia just turned 23, and he's not ranked. He's the guy that beat Ryan Hall. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got? Moreno Figueiredo 3?
Anything could happen. Yo, Figueiredo wins, dude. Like, what the frick happens?
If Figueiredo wins, I think you have a 4th. Because you had a tie. Moreno won. If Figueiredo wins, that's 1-1-1. You have to have a tiebreaker.
I just think, man, it's a close fight, man.
It really is. I like Figueiredo. I think
Figueiredo too. I like Figueiredo.
Brandon Moreno, maybe it's just the eye test, but he doesn't do it for me. Like he's a Lego building, geeky, funny guy. Not discrediting his MMA ability at all.
Sponsored by Legos.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's just if Figueiredo can make that weight cut easier on himself or like eat better.
I know people have been saying that if he loses this fight, he could go to bantamweight.
Yeah,
and that would be crazy.
Yeah.
He's also from the favelas of Brazil, who was making, like, over last year, because he was 4-0 in 2019, and then he was 4-0-1 because he had the draw in 2019, and then he was 0-1 last year because he only fought Moreno. Over those 6 fights, he made a couple million at least. From a guy from Brazil who didn't have anything, he might honestly step away if he doesn't win this either, because I think he is over his 30s.
Yeah.
Something like that. He's 34. Brandon Moreno's only 28, by the way. Let's look at some tails of the tape. Moreno has a 2-inch reach advantage, 2-inch height advantage. Ngannou has a 2-inch reach advantage. Movsar Evlov has a 4-inch reach advantage over Ilia Tuporia. That's interesting. And same reach for Hardy and Olenek.
Yeah, I like Olenek. I think he can get him to the ground. I think to the black belt.
Is it too early to talk about pod bets?
Not really. I mean, what's the next card? Hermanson and who?
Hermanson Strickland. I don't know about that one. I'm a huge Jack Hermanson homer.
Jack Hermanson was supposed to fight someone else.
No, Hermanson Strickland has been scheduled for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Qatar Chikadze is this weekend, by the way.
Yeah, I like Chikadze.
I like Chikadze too. Although I was talking about it, the more and more I talk about it, Calvin Qatar is a tough motherfucker. He went 5 rounds getting his ass beat by Max Holloway, who is a better boxer than Chikadze.
Yeah, but very similar styles. Chikadze has a very similar style to Max Holloway.
I don't know. I think Chikadze has more kicks. Right, and I think he has a lower base than Max Holloway. Max Holloway's going to be in your face
I'm not saying
he's
pinpoint Max Holloway. I'm saying his styles.
I just think that Calvin Qatar is going to be able to land some shots on Chikadze to the point that we haven't really seen Chikadze take. I think he's going to be able to mix it up, and I think Chikadze is going to win by a split decision. Honestly, I think this fight goes to decision.
I think Chikadze is going to blow right through him, but that's just me. I really do.
And another fight, Brandon Royval versus Rogerio Bontorin. That's a top 5 fight in flyweight. That's something to look out for too.
Interesting.
But yeah, I can read off actually some main events. I haven't talked about the events coming up. So we have. Let me actually go to my Excel page because I have more on here than Google has. Weird flex, but okay. So the week after UFC 270 is main evented by the middleweight bout between Jack Hermanson and Sean Strickland. That's going to be a good fight. Initial prediction is that Jack Hermanson wins, although I do think Sean Strickland's riding high. He might be able to do it. After that fight, so that is that January 29th or February 5th? That's February 5th. So we have another situation. You know how 268 and 267 were like really close to each other? Like it was like back-to-back weekends or some shit? Mm-hmm. UFC 270 and UFC 271 it's 2 pay-per-views in 3 weekends. So in obviously UFC 270, what we've been talking about, that's Ngannou Gane, Moreno Figueiredo, and Movsar Evloev versus Ilia Topuria. UFC 271, which is happening February 12th, is Adesanya versus Whitaker. That's only like a month away.
Adesanya.
Now, the undercards are pretty stacked, but to be honest with you, there isn't a whole lot of big fights on this card. Adesanya Whitaker is the main event, and then Jared Cannonier versus Derek Brunson is the co-main event. So that's like the 2 biggest middleweight fights you could make right now. But besides that, there's not a whole lot of other fights.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, Adesanya Whitaker. I mean, obviously, like, we all think Adesanya's going to win, but Whitaker puts up the best chance.
Know, man. Whitaker he's been on a 4-fight win streak since losing. He's talked a lot about watching the Blachowicz Adesanya tapes and taken from that. I think Whitaker has the ability to grapple with him. I do think that Whitaker has the best chance of beating Adesanya, and if he doesn't, no one else will.
Yeah, I feel like we see this every time a champion fights someone for the first time, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I guess that's why he's fighting him.
Right. And I think that the first fight between Whitaker and Adesanya was a bad look for Whitaker because Whitaker went...
We're almost in February. That's crazy. Sorry to cut you off.
Whitaker went 10 rounds with Yoel Romero, and then he just happened to get an uppercut on the button by Adesanya that put his lights out. If that doesn't happen, you know, can Whitaker...
He kind of beat his ass in that with the kicks, dude.
I know. Izzy has some of the best leg kicks ever, which is something to watch out for in Ngannou Gane.
Jennifer Maia versus Caitlin Chookagian. That's a good fight. I think Jennifer Maia.
I think that
she's the underdog.
I would take Chookagian in that fight.
You like Chookagian?
Yeah. Chookagian has at least a decent wrestling background, and she's so much better on the feet than Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia is the girl that took down...
Is Chookagian the Russian chick? I get them all confused.
Chookagian is American. Chookagian's a tall, blonde flyweight. Jennifer Maia is the girl that took down Valentina Shevchenko for the first round and fucked her up, and then Shevchenko took her down for 4 rounds. We were like, what the fuck? She can wrestle? After that fight.
JB. Charles Rosa. Yeah, some interesting ones. Damn, you like Greg Hardy, huh? That's surprising.
I like Greg Hardy. I'm not gonna put money on either way of that fight, though.
Yeah. Trevin Giles.
Rafael Dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev was just announced for February 19th. Rafael Dos Anjos making his return after like 2 years away to fight a 25-year-old prospect instead of fighting a actually like big guy like he was supposed to against Kamaev.
Yeah, so he thinks he can beat this guy.
Fiziev is really good.
And I would pick Fiziev.
I don't know, man. Rafael Dos Anjos has been... I just wonder, like, these 37-year-old guys who's been in so many wars, how's their chin holding up?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Fiziev, dude. I'm going to bet against him.
Fiziev's last fight, he won by knockout off a spinning heel kick that left his opponent doing the chicken dance. So.
Yeah. I just think it's Rafael Dos Anjos' time's up, I think.
Yeah,
you take 2 years off at that age, man. That shit's
and
gonna
not only
show.
that, but he's like number 8 ranked, and I think as soon as he loses, he's off the rankings.
Yeah,
because I don't even think he should be there.
Is this guy on the rankings, Rafael?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Fiziev is like 9.
9. Yeah, maybe he can still be on there. Maybe him and Tony Ferguson can fight.
Fiziev is the 8th ranked contender. Dos Anjos is the 9th ranked contender.
Him and Tony Ferguson can fight.
Yeah,
they could both
what
give
is
themselves.
Tony Ferg gonna do? Tony Ferg needs a good fight. coming up.
Both of them you could save, like, give each other a chance.
Do you think a fight against Conor would help or hurt Tony more?
Oh, help! 100%.
Do you think Tony can beat Conor?
Yeah, but I think Conor just doesn't lose against him.
Oh, well, that's what I mean. So obviously Ferguson has the ability to beat Conor.
Yeah.
Obviously, especially like taking him to the ground.
Yeah.
But do you see a scenario that Tony beats Conor?
Yeah, if he gets him on the ground. I see if he gets him in like a toe lock or a leg lock.
Conor's ground game is underrated, man. Like he
No,
kept
it's
he
good.
kept Khabib off him for a round and a half.
No, I'm saying it's good, but I'm saying, like, I'm just saying, like, if it happens, like, if he does get him on the ground, I'm not saying he's
No,
gonna.
I totally feel you.
Yeah, like,
He gets him in a leg
the
lock.
way, if there's ever a way he could win, if there's even a slight chance,
Because he's not going to do it boxing.
because he's not gonna win. It's on the ground, and I think it's in a leg lock. It's something weird, like it's on Conor's weird leg that he broke, and
What about
he
like
gets him in a leg lock or
what
a knee
about
lock.
Tony versus Dan Hooker? That wouldn't be a bad fight.
Dan Hooker.
You think so?
Yeah, Dan Hooker. And I'm not a Dan Hooker fan.
I think the lightweight division is going to not be as great this year as it was last year.
No, that division's had a
I think Chandler's going to fall off. I think Conor's not going to be huge
division's
this year.
been fire for almost
Like 3 years.
I was gonna say like 8.
Yeah. It's been consistently a top 3 division for the last like 3-4 years though, which is ridiculous. No other division can say that.
Yeah, I mean, and it still had pretty big eyes on it, dude. Freaking what's his face was pound for pound in the UFC. Freaking
Khabib?
no, when Conor beat him, one punched him for the
Joe
championship.
Poirier? Wait, what?
One punched
Oh,
him.
Aldo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
That
pound
was a
for pound.
featherweight fight too. That wasn't even.
Oh, that was a featherweight
Yeah.
fight. Oh.
Conor
my
started
mistake.
his career at featherweight,
Oh yeah, I know that. I thought he fought him at.
155.
I thought he did, yeah. But he fought what's his face?
Jose Aldo's. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but he's going to be fighting. Shit, who's the fighter? He's going to be fighting like a really top ranked.
Piotr Jan. That's fucking
Well, no, Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling has been set.
No, he said he won't main event it or he won't headline it or something. Piotr Jan. I don't know.
So Volkanovski Holloway 3 was supposed to happen at UFC 272, but Holloway had to pull out. He just got hurt. So
He re-aggravated an injury.
So Volkanovski is going to be fighting Chan Sung Jung
yeah,
in a
saw that.
non-title fight. That's going to be the main event of UFC 272 now. And the co-main event, which at one point was said to be contractually signed, was the second fight between Sterling and Jan. Now, I don't know if that has changed. Actually, MMAfighting.com just posted that they say that the fight is likely to be moved to the main event of 273.
Yeah, so that main event's fucked. Basically, 272.
UFC 272 is going to be in the can, yeah, because their main event isn't even a title fight.
Yeah. So like Dana.
Volkanovski's going to run over.
That's what other people don't talk about though. Like Dana White loses a lot of money on people just pulling out of fights. You know, and he has to go and find another fighter that quick.
Right.
Like Kamaru Usman versus.
But that doesn't happen. That
Masvidal,
really
you know?
doesn't happen that much for pay-per-view main events because obviously the fighter caliber that it takes to be a champion and to be of that level, you're going to be dedicated to the point that you have the right team that's not going to push you to injure yourself right before a fight kind of stuff.
Yeah, dude, he gave Michael Chandler the backup spot to fight in Gaethje Khabib. Like,
Yes, he did.
instead of Tony Ferguson or McGregor or Poirier or Oliveira or anybody. You know,
Right.
that still blows my mind. It's crazy that Michael Chandler's been in the UFC. I mean, it hasn't been that long since he's been out, but it's crazy that
right.
Michael Chandler's connected that far back
Khabib,
to when Khabib's last fight.
Khabib's last fight was November of 2020.
It was our first live stream.
Chandler's first. No, it was like our third, I think.
No, it
Pretty
was
sure our first one was Cormier DC 251. No, Masvidal Usman. That was our first pay-per-view.
I thought it was Khabib because we
No,
were
that was just our
surprised,
biggest one. That's still our biggest one. We had like 20,000 views or something.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That was because it was the 4:00 fight night or whatever. The main
It was in Abu
4:00.
Dhabi. It was awesome.
But
like we got done, it was still light out.
right.
I mean, we watched that one in the summer. That was
it was November. It was October or November. Global warming and that.
I don't know.
All right, it's 8:00. I didn't talk about much in the beginning segments while you weren't here that we haven't discussed now. So, anything else on your mind?
No, I don't got much.
You got Chikaze versus Qatar this weekend.
Yeah.
UFC 270 the weekend after that. I'm still trying to get those Bruins tickets.
Yeah.
Game's at 3:30, and I don't.
Yeah, it was October 2 p.m. Dude, it ended 2 p.m. What? Wow.
It ended at 2. Wow.
Our main card started at 2. Main event started at 2.
All right, so the UFC 270 main card starts at 8:00.
2020. Wow. Dude, fucking, if Ngannou loses, doesn't want to fight, you'll go sign with Khabib.
Right. Exactly. And Dana will be like,
dude, I like the way Khabib structured it, dude. He has a good structure to
I don't think that Khabib has a heavyweight division yet, though. That's the big thing. I'm pretty sure 205 is his highest division. And I'm sure he has some contracted fighters, but you need, 10 fighters, 20 fighters to have a division.
Yeah.
And Francis Ngannou's going to go floor everybody he fights in the UFC, too. That's the other thing. Like, his first fight, they'll get a good crowd for, and then everybody else, we know what's going to happen.
I don't know. He doesn't have to sign that many at first. Like, he can just sign a couple divisions and then go from there. Like, he needs to make some money first, like some business structure. But who am I?
All right, well, that's going to do it. This is episode 79. Episode 80 will happen next weekend. It's a good start. If I'm doing my math right, that means we'll hit episode 100 in June. Which makes sense because we started it in June of 2019. So, 52 weeks, 2 weeks. Missed a couple episodes here and there. All right, go check out MMA Complete Podcast on YouTube.
A year or 2 years?
2 years.
2 years, damn.
We started June of 2019.
Oh, 100 episodes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a couple off because we've missed, I think, what are you, 2 or 3?
So...
Three.
I think it's 3, including last week's.
Yeah, that's what, 3. That's not that bad for 2 years.
No, it's been 82 weeks and we've missed 3 episodes, so that's pretty good.
It's pretty fucking, well, I've missed a lot, but...
I don't think so. I think you might have missed 2, I think just 1, but maybe 2 that I have done, I would say.
Well, anyway, that's like talk that we do after the show.
So, thank everybody for tuning in. Go check us out on our YouTube page, MMA Complete Podcast. Go follow us on our Twitter, @complete_MMA. Pay-per-views are kicking back up. We've been doing a lot of promotional stuff with other YouTube, Twitter pages, so go make sure you give us a follow. Other Twitter pages that we have conspired with are in the description. Shouts to the MMA Media and MMA Betting Advisors. We've been doing a lot of stuff with them on their pages. And make sure you follow Fans Only Sports on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Fans Only Sports, we've been putting out a lot of articles. I've been writing 2 articles a day for 2022. I want to write 2 articles a day for the whole year. That would be cool. It's not going to happen, but that would be cool. So yeah, thank everybody for tuning in. We will be back next week, and we will be doing the UFC live stream pay-per-view reactions for UFC 270 on January 22nd, depending on what we're doing with the beginning of the day. We should be here for the start of the main card at 8 o'clock. If not, we will be posting on our Twitter, so make sure you give us a follow so you know when we are going live. That's going to do it. Thanks for coming on. We will see you guys next weekend. Oh, we got comments? No, we don't. Okay.